Welcome back to the P.S. Gilmore story, episode 50, a half a century, and the Manhattan Beach part of that story. Today we're going to be looking more specifically at the fireworks displays and how they were developed and the part that Gilmore played in those. Here's the cover of one of those displays, The Last Day of Pompeii. More of that in a second. This is the outside of the enclosure. And over the archway there you see Pains, P-A-I-N-S, of London. And they organised all of the fireworks, or as they were termed, the pyrotechnical display. And on the left there you see the entrance in where people would obviously walk as per the map itself. This was a huge development because obviously this was an additional attraction for all who came. Now, they had two choices. They could sit on the promenade or on the beach or whatever and watch the fireworks display. That is obvious. And they would see at least the rockets bursting and the different colours and the different so on. But if you look here at behind the Manhattan Beach Hotel, you've got this footpath, we'll call it, or sidewalk to the pavilion. And it went over the rail tracks and then into the fireworks enclosure, and you've got a little lake in it. Now, this lake is clearly to be seen here. You got seats on the left-hand side and right-hand side, and there you've got a lake, and behind that you've got what looks like a Roman town. It's not. It's actually a huge stage with an even bigger painting behind it. And behind that again is this mountain, and it is Mount Vesuvius. Here's a picture of that, which was printed in the newspapers in 1884 or 85 of the destruction of Pompeii. And down on the right-hand side, you'll see a very famous man holding a baton there. Here's an advertisement for Manhattan Beach. And just above Gilmore's Great Jubilee, you see Payne's latest and best firework display, The Last Days of Pompeii. This would become, in actual fact, the biggest fireworks display in American history, probably, because eventually it left Manhattan Beach. It went all over America as part of a show. Why were people interested in Pompeii? Because in the 1830s, 1834 to be exact, a Lord Linnet wrote a book called The Last Days of Pompeii. And it basically got so many people interested in the fact that this city, Pompeii, and another city called Herculaneum had been buried by ashes and by lava when the here's the Lord himself, when the volcano had erupted. And they were finding people buried in lava and so on. Obviously, the people were dead at this stage, 1,500, 1,600 years, or whatever it was at this stage. Here's from a recent trip that I had to Pompeii to give you an idea of how amazing this place is and give you some idea of why it is actually well worth a visit. They've excavated all of this here. So the interest that I had as an example would be reflected by the interest the American public had when this gentleman brought out this book. And so when Gilmore and here's an advertisement, an actual street name on a modern sign, obviously. And by the way, to the left there is a fast food joint, we would call it today. where the pot of food would sit. Here's some poor individual who sat inhaling the awful noxious gases that were been given off by Vesuvius and died as a result. Now, this is the shape of his body, which was basically found in situ in this shape. So, people came to see the waves and so on. Oh, by the way, this is my good self. Under the archway there, you see a mountain. That is actually Vesuvius. That is how far Vesuvius is from the city of Pompeii. It's a wonderful place to visit, and I'd recommend it to all. And I'm not, incidentally, working for the Italian Tourist Board. But here's another body that was found buried in ashes and pumice and so on. And this is within buildings that were also excavated as well. But and here's my good wife, and right over her left shoulder is actually Vesuvius. They say that it's actually due to blow shortly. And they're still excavating the place as we speak at the moment. It's incredible that so much has survived. Here is more of that fast food joint, and into these round holes went containers for fast food, so you could stop and pick up I don't know what sort of food they had in those days, but you could pick up the food and then go about your business as you would do today. It's amazing, as they say, how modern they were. So in 1885, this event took place. This concert took place. August the 8th. Make note of that, because you'll see why in a second. There was a colossal painting at the back. It was drawn by W. Mills and his assistants, and the music was composed and arranged by Mr. P.S. Gilmore. The fireworks, Pains of New York, and so on. And down at the bottom there, reserved chairs for the last days of Pompeii, and I have two tickets, very proud of this. And again, music was composed, and so reading from this, those who wish to form the idea of the busy life of the ancient Pompeii must turn to the glowing pages of Lord Lytton's immortal novel, The Last Days of Pompeii. But in order to better understand the spectacle which we produce, it will be well for the spectator to imagine that he sits facing the gigantic panorama of the once fair city. And to give you an idea of how big a show this was, here's a health warning, I suppose. The audience is requested to keep their seats until the final fireworks device, which is displayed immediately after the eruption. So people were extremely interested. Now, eventually this, this would begin touring America and so on. Here are some cards that were distributed of the event, and obviously this is for Manhattan Beach and Paine's Last Day of Pompeii and all the Roman architecture in the background. 5 or 6 inches. This is a very, very fragile little card. And on the reverse of that card, here it is. Every weekday evening except Monday, the grandest spectacle ever produced, concluding with the magnificent fireworks, appropriate music by Gilmore's band. Now here is the actual event unfolding. And down on the right hand side, beside that light, on this side of the lake, is a gentleman holding a baton beside fellows holding instruments. And that gentleman there is Mr. Gilmore himself, Monsieur Patrick S. Gilmore. And what an event this must have been. This is or was produced, according to this here, it sits in my office now, but it was produced according to the middle of this article here, Harper's Weekly of the July the 25th, 1885. So, we'll be back next week with more from Manhattan Beach and probably the fireworks, because I want to make sure that this is covered properly. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please click subscribe and like, and tell your friends about this and share as much as you wish. Thank you very much for your attention. Bye now.